Hello and welcome to today's mini webinar on the Advancing Access to Precision Medicine Act, or HR 4393. Your audio is muted when you join the call. Questions during the webinar can be submitted via the question box on your screen. The webinar will last approximately 15 minutes, including time for a Q&A session after the presentation, when you will be able to unmute your audio. This webinar will be recorded and available on the PWSA USA YouTube channel. Effective advocacy is essential to ensuring the health, safety, and enhanced quality of life for those affected by Prader-Willi syndrome. As such, PWSA USA is committed to informing the PWS community of critical public policy issues to leverage the power of grassroots supporters to enact change. Because Prader-Willi syndrome is considered a rare disease, extra effort is needed to raise awareness amongst our public and elected officials to guarantee the passage of legislation and regulations that help our community and defeat those that do not. I'm going to go through the next few slides quickly, but don't feel like you need to take notes. After the webinar, you will be provided with a copy of this presentation, key talking points, and a recording of the webinar. First, we'll cover a bit about the background of the bill, key bill provisions, how this impacts the PWS community, and what you can do to advocate for the passage of this legislation. So let's get started. Before we talk about the bill itself, let's talk a little bit about the background of the Advancing Access to Precision Medicine Act. There are more than 7,000 rare disorders that together affect more than 30 million Americans and their families. On average, rare disease patients will see more than 10 specialists and have been misdiagnosed 3 times before receiving an accurate diagnosis. This diagnostic odyssey takes an average of 8 years and not only costs lives, but often leads to significantly higher treatment costs. Because of this, U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell from California introduced HR 4393. The Advancing Access to Precision Medicine Act on September 18, 2019. This bill would ensure that many children and young adults living with an undiagnosed condition will have access to DNA sequencing clinical services that are currently out of reach. Researchers are now able to compare large stretches of DNA, 1 million bases or more, from different individuals quickly and cheaply. So what does this mean for human health? Such comparisons can yield an enormous amount of information about the role of inheritance in susceptibility to diseases and in response to environmental influences. In addition, the ability to sequence the genome more rapidly and cost-effectively creates vast potential for diagnostics and therapies. Although routine DNA sequencing in the doctor's office is still years away, some large medical centers have begun to use sequencing to detect and treat some diseases. In cancer, for example, physicians are increasingly able to use sequence data to identify the particular type of cancer a patient has. This enables the physician to make better choices for treatment. Researchers in the Undiagnosed Diseases Program at the National Human Genome Research Institute use DNA sequencing to try to identify the genetic causes of rare diseases. Other researchers are studying its use in screening newborns for diseases and disease risk. So what's in the bill that makes it so special? Most importantly, this bill ensures that clinicians and patients have access to the diagnostic tools they need to ensure a timely and accurate diagnosis. If passed, this bill will increase the federal medical assistance percentage, or the FMAP, for DNA sequencing clinical services to encourage coverage through state Medicaid plans. It will also request the National Academy of Medicine to conduct a study on this expanded coverage to understand how such coverage may improve care and reduce health disparities, and how the federal government may help to reduce barriers to testing. As we saw on the last slide, HR 4393 would increase the federal medical assistance percentage for DNA sequencing clinical services to encourage coverage through the state Medicaid plan. The bill would also request a study on this expanded coverage to find out how it improves care, reduces health disparities, and how it can reduce barriers to testing. So why is this important to the PWS community? Diagnostic delays not only cost lives, but often lead to significantly higher treatment costs that could have been eliminated if there had been a timely diagnosis. We are hopeful that the National Academy of Medicine study included in this legislation will bring this data to light and bring the nation's diagnostic infrastructure into the 21st century. Innovation in genomics has presented new opportunities to diagnose and treat genetic disorders like PWS, as well as predict one's predisposition to other diseases. Today, there are currently 75,000 different genetic tests that represent approximately 10,000 unique test types and cover more than 4,600 disorders. Specifically, the inclusion of DNA sequencing instead of just whole genome sequencing is essential to ensuring that the patient has access to appropriate care. Project Baby Bear, a recent California pilot program to screen babies in the state with an undiagnosed condition through whole genome sequencing, only led to a diagnosis of 43% of the babies tested. The decision of which diagnostic tool is most appropriate, that should be left to patients and their physicians, not legislated by Congress. Now that you know a little bit more about DNA sequencing and the Advancing Access to Precision Medicine Act, let's talk about how you can advocate for the passage of this bill on behalf of the PWS community. First, you can send an email or snail mail, a physical letter in the mail. Your email or letter will be more effective if you address a single topic or issue rather than a variety of issues you may feel passionate about. A typed one-page letter is best. A physical letter is more likely to be read than an email. You can typically find an email or web feedback form on the mailing address of your elected official on their website. Sending an email to an actual person is far better than using a website form. If you have trouble finding the best email or physical address, call the office and ask. I'll be happy to help you. Make sure your letter is legible and try to make it stand out by including pictures or bright colors to make sure it gets attention and leaves an impact. Don't do this if you're sending an email, however, as attachments in your email may get caught in a spam filter, and then the person who is receiving it won't be able to open it. In both cases, keep it brief, polite, and free of errors. You can also use social media for advocacy. Social media is a very public way to show your support or opposition of the policies or actions of your representative. Not every elected official uses social media, but the ones that do are easily found by visiting their official website. When posting, make sure that you tag their official page. Include a picture, as this increases the likelihood that others will read the text that goes along with it. Make it clear that you are a constituent of the elected official and make the post personal. Be aware that anything you share on social media may be visible to the public. You can also make a phone call. It takes less than 5 minutes and is one of the most effective ways to advocate. Staff are dedicated to answering your calls, and every call matters. Phone calls require minimal time commitment and no traveling, which is especially great during the coronavirus pandemic. Every elected official will have a public telephone number that constituents can call to leave feedback. This could either be a place where you leave a voicemail or talk with a staff member. Only call your own elected officials and clearly state the address at which you are registered to vote so they know that you are a constituent. Clearly tell the staffer what you want the elected official to do, why it is important, and why you feel motivated to call. Stay polite with the staffer on the phone, but be firm in your interaction as it will be short. You can also attend a town hall meeting. Attending a town hall meeting is a chance to meet with your representative and get updates on what they've been doing. They are usually held in a public setting and are free to attend. A lot of them have been taking place online due to the pandemic. Town halls provide fantastic opportunities to gain face-to-face access to your elected officials. To find out when a town hall meeting will be held, monitor your elected officials' website and social media pages, or you can sign up for their email alerts or call their office for event updates. In a typical town hall meeting, your elected official will speak for about 15 to 30 minutes about their activities in Washington. Then they will open the floor to questions from constituents. This is when you raise your hand immediately. The longer you wait, the more competition you will have for the microphone. This is your opportunity to ask about an issue or piece of legislation. Make sure you have what you're going to say prepared in advance. You may have only been given less than a minute to pose your question. Prepare a short summary of the bill or the issue you are advocating for. Be sure to introduce yourself, state the bill number, title, and summary, what position you are advocating for, and why. Your summary and explainer should be no longer than 1 page. Only address one bill or issue at a time. If you aren't given a chance to speak or ask your question during the meeting, stick around afterwards and find a staff member. They can take your comments, answer questions, and refer you to other staff members as needed. Bring a business card or a printed letter about your issue to help them follow up with you. Don't forget to network with other attendees while you are there. It's a great way to get other people involved in the PWS community. You can also schedule a meeting with your local district office. It takes some planning, but it makes the most impact. You'll have the chance to sit down with a staff member from your local district office or maybe even talk directly with your elected official. In order to schedule a meeting, visit the website of the person you want to visit. You should be able to find contact information for their scheduler or chief of staff, or you will find a section of their website called Request a Meeting. If there is a web form to request a meeting, fill it out and someone will get back to you. Most state elected officials have district offices that are near your home address. You can ask to meet at the district office so there's less travel involved. And if you're working with a group such as your chapter in your state, you may want to request a local library or another town hall or another local venue to accommodate the size of your group. I really recommend this method because the more people present at the meeting, the more amplified your message will be. You can expect to spend about 10 to 15 minutes with your elected official or their representative. It is not uncommon to have them have a representative come, such as the legislative assistant, and hold that meeting instead of them. While the elected official may only have a very limited amount of time during the meeting, their staff are in a better position to dedicate more time and hear your position and address your concerns and questions. Introduce yourself and make a short statement about your position or your ask. Tell a little personal story and why you came to meet with them. Be clear with what you are asking them to do. Stick to the issue you asked to discuss. If the conversation goes off topic, bring it back to the reason you came and don't be afraid to press a staffer or elected official for a definitive answer or position statement in support or opposition of your ask. Ask if the elected official will pose for a photo with your group, and if everybody is given permission to be photographed, share it all over social media. And be sure to thank the elected official or their representative or their staff person for meeting with you and supporting the PWS community. PWSA USA also has some templates that you can use. While these prepared boilerplate texts are there for you, you can personalize them and use them in your emails, your tweets, your calls, and your letters. These are more of a guide to help you make your point, but we want you to add your own words and personal perspective. Thanks for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them via the question box on your screen. You can also unmute your microphone to ask a question out loud. While you're typing out your questions, I want to remind everyone that PWSA USA is a 501c3 organization. So when you're meeting with your representatives on behalf of PWSA USA, keep in mind you're not lobbying, you're educating your legislators about issues that are important to you. This is so we don't jeopardize our tax-exempt status. I also want to take a moment to encourage everyone to register to vote, check your voter registration status, and turn up at the polls this November. When we talk to our elected officials, we want to be able to say that 100% of the PWS community votes. If you need help finding out about voter registration deadlines in your state, voting times and locations, or whether or not you're able to register to vote, give me a call and I'll help you through the process. With that, I will now stop sharing my screen and we can take some questions. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so I just want to thank everybody for attending today. This video will be available on our YouTube channel for those who missed it or would like to watch it again.